Emily Dickinson grew up with a mind that moved quietly yet fiercely, constantly collecting thoughts, questions, and images the way careful hands gather wildflowers, knowing their beauty may be small, brief, and easily missed by those rushing past. She was born in 1830 in the town of Amherst, Massachusetts, a place shaped by seasons, church bells, routines, and familiar faces, where the rhythm of daily life seemed steady enough to make her inner imagination stand out even more clearly. From an early age, Emily showed sharp curiosity and emotional sensitivity, listening closely to conversations, watching people with thoughtful distance, and storing impressions that later transformed into lines of poetry rather than spoken opinions. While other children enjoyed loud games and constant company, Emily often preferred observation and reflection, finding comfort in solitude not because she disliked people, but because quiet allowed her thoughts to stretch, wander, and grow freely. She loved words deeply, treating them not as decorations, but as living tools capable of shaping fear, hope, faith, doubt, and wonder into something precise and powerful. Books became her closest companions, filling her mind with ideas about nature, philosophy, love, and the mysteries hidden beneath ordinary moments. School provided structure and learning, yet Emily never fully belonged to classrooms because her imagination worked independently, drifting beyond lessons into deeper questions that rarely fit neatly inside textbooks. She wrote constantly, not for praise or performance, but because writing felt necessary, like breathing through thoughts too large to remain unexpressed. Her poems were short yet intense, packed tightly with meaning, emotion, and surprising connections that challenged readers to slow down and think carefully. Emily discovered that poetry did not need long explanations to be powerful because a few carefully chosen words could carry entire storms of feeling. Nature became her favorite subject, not as distant scenery, but as a living partner in conversation, reflecting joy, fear, death, and renewal with quiet honesty. She studied flowers, birds, weather, and light with scientific attention and emotional wonder, believing that small details often carried the greatest truths. Faith played a complicated role in her life, offering questions rather than easy answers, as she wrestled with belief, doubt, and the mystery of existence. Emily did not reject religion, but she explored it inwardly, shaping her own understanding rather than repeating accepted explanations. As she grew older, she gradually withdrew from public life, choosing the familiar boundaries of home over the expectations of society. This withdrawal was not weakness or fear, but a deliberate choice to protect her creative focus and emotional balance. Within her room, her imagination traveled farther than most people ever dared. She dressed simply, often wearing white, not as a symbol of sadness, but as a reflection of clarity, independence, and comfort. Her days followed quiet routines filled with writing, gardening, baking, reading, and long moments of thought. She communicated mostly through letters, crafting correspondence that carried warmth, humor, and intelligence across distances. Friends and family received poems folded into envelopes, sometimes without titles or explanations, as if Emily trusted readers to meet her work halfway. She never sought publication aggressively, preferring control over how her words existed in the world. Editors who encountered her work often misunderstood it, trying to reshape her unconventional style into safer forms. Emily resisted these changes, understanding that her unusual punctuation and rhythm were essential parts of her voice. She used dashes, pauses, and surprising structures to guide emotion rather than grammar rules. Her poems often explored death not as something frightening, but as a presence woven naturally into life. She treated mortality with curiosity, calmness, and even gentle humor, asking readers to reconsider fear. Love appeared in her writing as longing, connection, and mystery, never simple or predictable. Emily's emotional world was rich and complex, even though her physical world remained small. She observed human behavior carefully, finding universal truth inside quiet interactions and subtle moments. While the world outside moved toward louder progress and public achievement, Emily remained centered in inward exploration. This contrast allowed her work to feel timeless, detached from trends yet deeply connected to humanity. She wrote nearly 1,800 poems, carefully storing them rather than sharing them widely. Each poem felt like a private discovery, not a performance. Emily trusted that truth did not require applause to remain valid. Her confidence came from conviction rather than recognition. Though she lived quietly, her thoughts moved boldly. She understood that creativity often flourishes away from crowds. Her life teaches that impact is not measured by noise. Emily showed that attention and patience can reveal hidden worlds. She reminds us that curiosity thrives in stillness. Her words continue to invite readers into thoughtful pauses. She proves that imagination does not need permission. Even in silence, her voice carried far. And as her story unfolds further, it becomes clear that restraint can be as powerful as expression. As Emily Dickinson continued living within the familiar walls of her family home, her inner world expanded with increasing intensity, as if every quiet day added new layers of thought, sharpened perception, and deepened the emotional charge stored carefully inside her writing. She observed time passing not through dramatic events or public milestones, but through changes in light, seasons, health, memory, and the shifting weight of questions that returned repeatedly without demanding clear answers. Loss entered her life gradually, as friends moved away, loved ones aged or died, and familiar voices disappeared. Yet instead of pushing her outward, grief pulled her further inward, where reflection transformed pain into understanding. Rather than collapsing under sorrow, Emily used it as material, turning heartbreak, uncertainty, and fear into precise poetic structures that held emotion firmly without letting it spill carelessly. Her poems grew bolder in thought, more daring in form, and more confident in their refusal to explain themselves fully, trusting readers to work, wonder, and feel alongside her. She explored death not as an ending, but as a companion to life, walking quietly beside every heartbeat, reminding humanity of urgency, beauty, and humility at once. These ideas, though heavy, never felt hopeless because Emily balanced them with curiosity, humor, and subtle delight in the smallest details of living. She found joy in bees drifting between flowers, in a bird pausing briefly on a fence, in the surprise of a thought arriving unexpectedly, as if the universe were whispering directly to her. While society often celebrated loud achievement, Emily quietly celebrated awareness, believing that noticing deeply was its own form of accomplishment. As her health weakened, her writing did not fade, but sharpened, becoming more focused, compressed, and emotionally direct, as if time itself had become a precious resource. She wrote knowing she might never witness her work appreciated widely, yet this knowledge never stopped her hand, because creating truth mattered more than being seen. Emily trusted that words could wait, even if people could not. When she died in 1886, few outside her immediate circle understood the depth of what she had created, as drawers and boxes of poems remained largely hidden from the world. Only after her death did her sister discover the full scope of Emily's writing, revealing hundreds upon hundreds of poems crafted with care, discipline, and fearless originality. As her poems were gradually published, readers encountered a voice unlike anything they had known, quiet yet commanding, simple yet endlessly complex. The world began to realize that greatness had lived unnoticed within a single house, behind a calm exterior, protected by choice rather than chance. Emily Dickinson transformed poetry by proving that small forms could carry immense power, that silence could hold thunder, and that inner life deserved as much attention as outward action. Writers learned from her courage to be strange, honest, and precise without apology. Students learned that unconventional thinking often requires patience rather than permission. Children discovered that imagination does not need loudness to be strong. Emily's influence spread slowly, deepening rather than fading, because her words demanded reflection instead of excitement. Her poems invited readers to pause, breathe, and sit with uncertainty rather than rushing toward conclusions. She taught the world that mystery is not something to fear, but something to respect. Even today, her dashes invite readers to linger, her pauses encourage thought, and her rhythms reshape understanding. Emily Dickinson changed literature without stepping onto a stage, raising her voice, or seeking approval. She proved that restraint can hold power equal to bold action. Her life reminds us that expression does not always require exposure. She chose focus over fame, depth over noise, and honesty over expectation. Through her work, quiet became strength, thought became adventure, language became discovery. Emily's legacy continues each time someone notices carefully, writes bravely, or thinks deeply without needing permission. Her story encourages patience in a hurried world. She stands as proof that imagination thrives in attention, that creativity survives in solitude, that courage can whisper instead of shout. Emily Dickinson's life shows us that not all revolutions are loud. Some arrive softly, line by line, waiting patiently to change how we understand existence. And if we listen closely enough, her voice still reminds us that stillness can hold endless motion, and silence can speak with extraordinary clarity.